The base is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Wednesday. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday. It's a Match Day Wednesday. It's a busy Wednesday. Lots of things to get into with matches to be played tonight, matches that were played last night, matches that are going to be played this afternoon, matches that were played yesterday afternoon, all kinds of things off the field. It's a busy Wall Pass Wednesday. So if you have questions about any of it, you can get involved in the show in a couple different ways. You can tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. You can email us soccerdownhere@gmail.com. You can also watch on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. Thank you to all of our subscribers over on Twitch. Thank you to all of our patrons on Patreon. You guys help keep us going and allow us to do what we do. So thank you for doing that. I'm Jason Longshore. John Nelson is alongside, and as we connect this morning, John says, don't spill a drink 5 minutes before air. What did you do now?
Was turning a corner here in Office HD, and as I'm lifting my cup, which I'm trying to finish with one thing and put something else in it, as is the tradition, lifting it up off of a platform, and I don't lift it up all the way off of the platform, and it clanks the edge of it, and the drink spills onto the floor. And so trying to find something that I can wipe up the floor with on very, very short notice so I can move appropriately here in the office. So I don't have as much in the cup as I started with about 7 minutes ago.
Good job, or something?
Or something, yeah.
Yeah,
that's about right.
Nicely done.
Hey, look, I found napkins and I cleaned up the mess and did it almost NASCAR pit stop style. So I'll give myself credit for that. Exactly. That is exactly the proper response there. Got that done. So I'll be finishing the cup sooner than I would have normally because of clanking the piano behind me.
I love that we have so many regulars who watch the show or listen to the show. Jason Nick says, it's always fun to picture what's going on in the background when the show starts late. I picture a lot of Jason yelling at John. It has happened before. It's mainly been not yelling at John. It's been yelling when John can't properly connect. And there are things happening. There's a lot of yelling. John's not seeing it. And it's a lot of yelling to myself because I can't connect to him.
Gwen's having to hear it more than anything else.
Yeah, Gwen knows to hide when those things happen. And by the way, I think we were like 90 seconds late this morning. Y'all drive a hard bargain around.
Hey, they're right. It's like Seriously. 9 a.m. right on the button.
There was not a DoorDash this morning for me, and I would never DoorDash Huddle House, Captain Ragamuffin. Waffle House maybe. Huddle House, nah. It's a cheap imitation.
I mean. See, and for me, I would actually go and get it from Waffle House just on premise.
Because what's the premise?
Just it's Waffle House. You go and get it. It's Waffle House. You go and visit. You give them the 25% tip.
There's
you go and get it.
Pandemic thing going on.
Watch
John.
it. I wear a mask going in.
I mean, I will have stuff sent to me if I need to because I'm trying to stay safe. I'll go out sometimes, but I'm not going to go eat at Waffle House right now.
No, I don't eat. No, it's pickup. It is not sitting down and eating by any stretch of the imagination. It is literally going in, wearing a mask, picking it up, and leaving.
And I am not drinking stout this morning, Matt. I am drinking Coca-Cola because I did not have time to make some mate this morning. So had a Red Bull, and I'm now out of Red Bulls, and I don't have another one to have. So I'm sipping on some Coca-Cola so I can keep my throat, in working order for the show this morning, because we have a lot of things to get into.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Jerry Bankston can wear a mask for 90 minutes as Olympia is playing Montreal, I can wear a mask outside of the house.
Yes, that is true. That went from like over here to over there and back and around. But it'll work. That'll get us into where we'll start. Concacaf Champions League from last night. Montreal made a game of it. I mean, you could tell, first off, they're missing a lot of pieces. Second off, they haven't played very much. Olympia has. They did win the match. They did not advance. It was 2-2, and Olympia advanced based on the away goals tiebreaker from their 2-1 win in Montreal 9 months ago. Thierry Henry, who By the way, I don't understand this, and I can only think of one other manager who has done this on a regular basis. Typically we see the managers on the bench either in a suit or nice, stylish clothes of some sort, or in team gear, which would be Adidas, which would have a Montreal Impact logo on it. Thierry Henry wears his Puma hat with a giant P on it.
Yep. All
the time. Is he getting fined for that? Charlie Boehm asked the question last night on Twitter. I think it's a fair one. Jay Heaps would wear a Nike polo all the time for New England. And it's like, first off, you're wearing a polo that's a similar color to the team polo. I guess you have some sort of a Nike deal as a MLS manager.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a carryover from your days as a player, but I mean, how do you have a Nike deal as an MLS manager, first off? And why are you doing that when your team is all wearing something else? I don't know. It just feels weird. And the giant P hat is it's a lame hat, Thierry Henry.
Yes.
Come on, man. I mean, all I could think of was the Rentals Friends of P song from like 1995. Like, what is going on? He was 100% correct, though, with what he said after the match. We deserved to win, but couldn't score the second goal. I agree. I know they had a chance with Bankston at the beginning, but we had way more. I'm proud of my team. We didn't train for 2 weeks. We're in quarantine. Guys were missing, and we only trained 6 times coming in. That's what's so hard about this for anybody, but especially the MLS teams, because they have a longer gap here. And you've got guys like Boyan, who's not there because he's out of contract at the moment, and they're talking, but they might not get a deal done, but they might get a deal done, but he can't play in this. It's difficult. It was difficult in the second match as well for New York City, although they started really well. And Ronnie Dyla's right with what he said. I think we did okay in the first half. We had good control of them and had the ball a lot as well. It was even in the first half. I totally agree with that. But They showed real quality in that first goal, and it was a really good cross, and the finish is top class. We go 1-0 down. Second half, I think we gave away a really good goal, and then it's going to be tough the rest of the game. And total letdown. After giving up that second goal, total letdown. One goal didn't change anything for NYC because Tigres had scored one on the road at Red Bull Arena back in March. So they're up 2-0 on aggregate. They've got the away goal. This was the home leg for Tigres. NYC needed 2 goals to have a chance to win, and they still would have went through with 2 goals in this if they had come back to tie it on aggregate 2-2. No, I did not update my board this morning, Jason Nix. It was a hectic morning. As I said, I was out of an extra Red Bull. I didn't update the board. You're just going to have to deal. It happens. It's not Tuesday. It is December 16th. I will take it down. Man. Jeez. Gah. Yeah, I don't have any extra help over here. Gah. Anyway. New York City collapsed. It got ugly. 4-0 last night. 5-0 on aggregate. I was obviously watching that game, and that's why I didn't have time to update my board. I wish I had went to sleep. It was disappointing, but not all that surprising that the 2 MLS teams that played last night are out.
Yeah, and when 2-NA and everybody responds to how their commentators...
You talk while I update the board. How about that?
I could do that. But
you're not getting a fancy board.
I'll go a little further backwards. Yeah, the Quinones pass into Gignac for the first goal was absolutely gorgeous, and Gignac was right there and headed it in to make it 1-0. And then when pretty much the 2-NA Twitter account breaks after goal number 2, which was absolutely ridiculous, and that made it 2. And then obviously the third goal made it in the 67th, and it was just. That second half, you could just sense NYC just kind of sitting there going, yeah, okay. And I tip my hat to Tigres, obviously. But once again, that's what happens when you have teams that are practicing, and you mentioned the Thierry Henry comment. Teams practicing, teams playing, you don't have layoffs and things like that. But I thought that there were a couple of instances in the Montreal match with Olympia. It was dominant at points, and the field had tilted where even just the simplest communications were turning into large things, where there was one instance, I want to say, where Zachary Brode-Guillard had to try to settle a ball, and Clement Diop is telling him to chest it, and it took a little while for that to compute and almost turned into a turnover.
Yeah.
About 6 feet away from goal, it turned into an opportunity there. But, once again, I think that was the Kyoto chance in the 45th. That seemed to be the best chance for Montreal in the first half. But then,
what about the chance late for Rudy Camacho?
Yeah, that one should have gotten it too.
That should have been it.
Yep, and Sadic getting the goal. Excellent use of the folks that were in front of him to get it in the net in the 57th to make it 1-0. But the piece of history involving Olympia being in 2 competitions at once. I thought that was kind of cool. It didn't register to me until I thought about it for a second, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. They're still in both CONCACAF League and CONCACAF Champions League.
Yes.
They're very busy people.
Well, that shouldn't happen again
No.
because CONCACAF League and CONCACAF Champions League should not be going on at the same time. It's craziness. I mean, Olympia, what they're doing is pretty special. They're the first Honduran team to get to this stage in the new CONCACAF Champions League since 2009. So, can an MLS team get through? You got 2 more cracks at it. It starts at 8 o'clock tonight. I think broadcast is 7:56 for Atlanta and Club America. 3-0 down. It's not going to be easy. I'll be curious to see how Club America comes into it. I mean, what's their mentality going to be? Is it we need to do something to salvage the season, or is it, man, we're just waiting for next year?
Yeah,
we will see. The nightcap's interesting because they didn't play the first leg. So LAFC and Cruz Azul. LAFC not at 100% full strength, but pretty close. They got Diego Palacios back. He stayed back in Los Angeles because his wife is expecting, and they thought it was about to happen. It's not going to until he gets back, so he was traveling Tuesday night. I do wonder about the protocols and the quarantine issues and all that, because he would have been on a charter. Now he's not going to be on a charter. That was a problem in UEFA. I don't know if CONCACAF had a rule like that, so I don't know. The other thing, too, is last night, NYC had to travel morning of the match. It's another little bonus that makes it difficult. So LAFC Cruz Azul tonight. How does Cruz Azul bounce back from blowing a 4-0 lead, in the semifinals in Liga MX? So lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. We'll have to see what happens. Okay. Atlanta United and Club America tonight. So we know that the 4 short-term call-ups have been signed. They can feature. I think Lundgaard will be on the bench as a reserve goalkeeper. No question there. Jackson Conway's not one of these short-term signings now because he's on an MLS deal, so he's good. He could feature tonight. I would probably expect to see him play at some point. I think Stephen Glass made it clear that Eric Lopez will be on the field tonight. Wondering if he will start. I'm leaning to yes, because why not? Jurgen Damm is not 100%, and you don't have Brooks Lennon on the right side. So do you go with Escobar and Mulroney, Escobar and Lopez on the right side? That's the latter one's kind of where my head is. What's your midfield? You don't have Jeff Larentowicz. You don't have Mo Adams. Is it going to be Remedi, Heineman, Moreno, Remedi, Heineman, Hosetu? I don't know. It's really awkward. The back, I would expect, would be Bello, Meza, Robinson, and I'm thinking Escobar on the right side, although if you want to play Escobar centrally, you could play Jack Gurr as the right back. You're just not in a great spot here to do what you need to do to score 3 goals to send it to penalties. This is your home leg, so there's no away goals in play just yet. You didn't get anything in Mexico. I'm looking for a good performance. That's all I'm looking for. 9 months later, you don't have Joseph. You're just in this spot where you're missing players. You had a long layoff. You've been back training. You're waiting on the new manager to take over. There's just so much going on that I think it's really difficult to have huge expectations here, and that's okay. I mean, that's the situation you're in. But you can put on a good performance in the 90 minutes you have tonight. And you get an early goal, you can make it really interesting. And that's all I want to see. Is I want to see, like the Monterrey game in 19, where you come in with 3-0 down after the away leg. You throw what you can at the game. You try to get something early. They didn't. They had chances to. They did not. They got one. You're still 2 goals away. Fight for it. I want to see the fight. That's what I'm looking for tonight. I want to see a team that plays like Montreal and NYC did. They played like they wanted to be there. And that was a bit of a concern because, look, this is awkward. You know, these guys would normally be on vacation. They would normally be home. They had to go home. They get to come back. They get to go back into a quarantine testing kind of thing. And then they go play, and it might be one game, and you know coming in, you're 3-0 down. Everybody knows what that means. You know it's not likely you're going to go through. You've got to show some professional pride tonight. So I'm hoping to see that. I'm hoping maybe some of these new inclusions, like a Lopez, like a Conway, potentially, like a Gurr, potentially, give you a boost. You know, sometimes it's that new guy who is trying to prove himself who just gives everybody a boost. I'm hoping we get to see a good fight tonight from the guys in red and black.
Yeah, because the way that I look at it, it's you want a good fight tonight, and this is also an audition for whoever the new coach is. And you don't want to be in a situation where that last game before the new coach is named, if this is the last match, because Cruz Azuleada is always in the back of your head here.
This is Club America.
Well, I know
they don't do those
Club
sorts
America,
of things.
but that a collapse of that type.
That's not in the back of your mind with Club America. They don't do those sorts of things.
So I'm looking for fight, yes. I'm looking for those who are invested in the crest tonight because it's an audition for you being being a prominent part of what this new coach, whoever this individual is, might be looking for going forward. And so for me, that's what I'm hunting for tonight. You get the first goal, anything can happen. I love what Jurgen Damm said in the press leading up to the match with the pressure being on Club America. So get the first goal, see what happens. I mean, honestly, I'm looking to win the night, kind of like last year, like we saw at Mercedes-Benz. You win the night, you have a good performance, you have some folks shine across the board, and it's another step going forward getting into 2021.
You got guys trying to prove themselves tonight because they're trying to position themselves in where they want to be for next season with a new manager coming in, and that's really important. All right, let's get to the Twitch pitch. Lots of comments on Concacaf. You got questions, again, you can tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. You can send us an email, soccerdownhere@gmail.com. You can also join us on that Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. Kick it off with Bernd Dursberger. CCL is always a big disappointment to me. Yes, there are always valid excuses for MLS teams performing poorly. The season started later, no depth due to the cap, et cetera, et cetera. But in the end, the teams just don't get it done. Everybody here just shrugs, but I think it hurts MLS's perception in these parts a lot, in particular with Liga MX fans, which is exactly the audience that MLS owners want to convert. I totally agree with that last part, and that is a big stumbling block for Major League Soccer. You are wanting more of the Spanish-speaking audience, and you are assuming in this country that the majority of that Spanish-speaking audience are Liga MX fans. It's hard to argue the quality of your product when you're not beating Liga MX teams in competition. That's why Campeones Cup was very important last year. It wasn't just a game for a made-up trophy. It became something a little bit more than that. But you've got to do it in these kinds of games too. In big picture, I totally agree with Bernd. Like this tournament right now, I think the MLS teams are really, truly at a big disadvantage because of the timing. I mean, you've got teams that are missing players because of contract situations. I mean, it's really awkward right now. So let's separate the two. In general, MLS teams have to spend more to be competitive. MLS teams have to have a better mentality, and managers have to have a better mentality in these games. It needs to be treated like the big deal that it is. You don't see Champions League, Europa League, Libertadores, Sudamericana, the African Champions League, the Asian Champions League. You don't see those games treated like sometimes in markets here and this is maybe from the external environment, this is sometimes inside the team, you don't see these continental championship kinds of matches treated with the lack of importance that you do in this country at times. It's very, very frustrating, and it has to change across the board. It's unacceptable at this point. And I wanted to share a tweet, and this is taking it a little bit of a step further, because Xavi Sol is a on-camera person for Today NA, a host, calls games as well. And look, this is a weird competition right now this year in general, and I get that. I totally understand that. But he tweeted out last night, and I think he's dead on with the mentality of this tournament, because it does have to change in Mexico as well. They need to take it, I think the way it's talked about, there's a lot of joke until the Mexican teams get to the final and whatever. He said this, and I would really love it if this resonated in American soccer. Translated, of course. Friends, colleagues, tweeters, and people who discredit the Concacaf zone tournaments. You are also from North and Central America. This is ours. It is our zone. It is our tournament. It is our people. They are our people. Less destruction in the networks. It's really easy. It's what happens in American soccer all the time. And, I mean, you could hear it way too much last night. The cynicism, the negativity, the this is fun, this is CONCACAF, it's going to get silly. No, it's a serious thing. And if we don't start talking about it like it's serious and acting like it's serious, it's never going to be serious. Discrediting it doesn't do anything. It might get you a funny on social media. Good for you. Mark it on the scoreboard. Maybe I need to start marking them on my whiteboard. And what does that accomplish? Nothing. The tournament has to be taken more seriously. And that's especially from MLS, because they can't get past the hurdle of the top Mexican teams. And they will not be taken as seriously as they need to be around the world, but especially in this zone, in this area. If you don't start beating the Mexican teams, you have to. How are you going to do that? Mentality, training, better quality, better performances in pressure-packed situations. Those are all there. More spending, more depth in the roster. Those are critical, because otherwise you're asking for perfect performances, and that's hard. Real Salt Lake nearly had one in almost 10 years ago. Nearly a perfect performance. They fell short in the home leg after a great performance on the road. Toronto had a nearly perfect performance, getting to a final and losing on penalties with a ton of injuries. They did everything they could possibly do. If you have any kind of a slip-up, you're going to get punished because of the difference in quality. With what LAFC did against León, that was incredibly impressive. That felt like maybe a sea change. León obviously went on to win the title right now. So, full credit to that win. But that's not a Monterrey. That's not a Tigres. That's not a Club America. That's not a top team. And on top of that, you can't have your champion losing to the Honduran champion. The Sounders got knocked out by Olympia, and that happened pre-pandemic. These things have to change. It has to be taken more seriously. It can't be shrugged off. There are things that have to change to give MLS teams more opportunity, yes. The timing is difficult. It is not the biggest issue. It is quality. It is quality, and it is handling pressure. Handling pressure can change now. Quality needs to change quickly. But I get frustrated watching American teams go to Mexico, and we'll include some of the Canadian teams too in this, and looking like you've never been in a pressure-packed situation. The pressure has to ratchet up a little bit. They have to be able to handle these games properly, and they don't. And the Mexican teams come in and do a job when they come to this side. When they come into a CONCACAF match in the United States, they come in and they treat it like an away match. They do the job. They're not naive. And at times there's way too many just naive things that American teams do in Mexico, and that costs them in these matches. For Atlanta in 2019. Not closing things down at 2-0, which you would put up a great fight with injuries, with a compressed schedule at the very beginning. You lost Julian Gressel a couple days before. You didn't really have a right-sided player because Escobar was still hurt. Mikey Ambrose puts in a shift on the right side in Monterrey. 1-0, okay. 2-0, shut it down. Shut it down, park all the buses, and get out of there at 2-0 and give yourself a shot. And it got away. And it happens all the time. And it's not just a Frank DeBoer thing. That's a big mistake that I felt like he made. It happens to a lot of managers, great managers in this league. It's got to change. It's got to change. It's got to be taken more seriously. This year is a completely weird situation. You can't let that affect everything. But in general, it's got to change. It's got to be better. You've got to see more MLS teams knocking off Liga MX teams if you want Liga MX fans and media to put MLS on that same pedestal, because they're not there right now.
There was as you were talking, there was a phrase that popped into my head, and I wrote it down. You get out of it what you put into it. And it applies across the board in a bunch of different things. And as you were saying that, it's like, the investment that is made by media. You get out of it what you put into it. If you take it seriously, you present it seriously, you treat it seriously instead of, midnight at the Chuckle Hut on the weekend, then you're taken seriously as it goes. That's off the field. On the field, it's not having those moments like we've seen in the past, where if you have the opportunity to shut it down, get out of Dodge, and get to the next one, shut it down, get out of Dodge, get to the next one, so you've got that fighting chance to advance. And so it's treating it seriously across the board. It's about us treating it seriously. It's about media treating it seriously. It's about teams, players, all the way down to whatever micro level you want to talk about. If you want to be taken seriously in this hemisphere by everyone else who's associated with the competition, it's about getting out of it what you put into it, and being there and investing in it across the board so you can make those advancements. And so you're not just talking about Toronto FC as like that once every X number of years that you're talking about. It's about the investment across the board so everything can advance in this hemisphere when it comes to the competition and to the sport.
There's got to be more moments in this competition for MLS teams than Toronto in a final in penalties, RSL, I think it was 2012, getting to the final and falling at the last hurdle. I don't really have a whole lot of others in mind, and that's a problem. Great clubs, great leagues have these memories of these huge performances in continental competition, these great comebacks like Vélez had last night in Copa Sudamericana. You've got to have some of those, and I've got like 3. Houston and Pachuca in the old Concacaf Champions Cup, I think the last year before it changed over to Concacaf Champions League. Epic series, great series, back and forth, created a nice rivalry. They got matched up multiple times and things, and it was always a good watch. That's about it. That's about all you got. There just isn't enough. It's got to change. And until it does, you're going to have a perception issue. It's just not going to go away. All right, more questions, more comments on the Twitch pitch. Christopher Abel says, I hope none of the Atlanta United 2 guys play unless we go down by multiple goals in this leg. One thing, Chris, and I know what you're saying, and in general I would agree with you. You're not going to just play guys to play guys. I think you might have to in this case. And I don't think you consider Eric Lopez as one of the Atlanta United 2 guys, because I think he will play significant. I think we have to stop this mentality about the giant gap between the two in individual players. How many times do you see? Let's go to yesterday. Let's go to England for a second. Wolves got injuries, got issues at central midfield. They turned to Owen Otasoe, 19-year-old. Probably Wolves fans didn't want to see him. What did he do? He came on and performed. The guys have to get an opportunity to show themselves. And you're not looking for those opportunities all the time. Sometimes they just present themselves. This is one where it presents itself. You don't have a lot of right-sided players tonight. Jack Gurr could either start or come off the bench, and he has to take advantage of that opportunity. I want him to have that opportunity at some point because I want to see what he can do. Can he make the jump to the next level? You can't really tell until you see it. Conway's signed. You're going to have to see him against MLS and Liga MX competition at some point. If he gets the opportunity tonight, I want to see it. You've got to look for those, and sometimes they just happen. And I don't think you can go in and separate everybody so much. And I know that's what we do here because just the progression of players is looked at a little bit differently than it is in other countries. But we need to embrace guys from the second team and from the academy getting these opportunities. Now, they have to perform. It's not a gift. They've got to perform to keep getting the opportunities. But it can create these special moments. Otasoa yesterday for Wolves, prime example. It's one that's going to be remembered for a while, and it's going to get him more opportunities. If that happens tonight, if it's Gurr, if it's Goodrum, if it's Conway, if it's Lopez, if something happens and Lundgaard has to play, I want him to play well. I want him to be remembered for this. And that's just... I don't want to dismiss them because they're Atlanta United 2 players. So we'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes. I don't think that's what you were doing, Chris. Don't get me wrong. But I think we're looking at, especially in a match like tonight, where there's not a great chance of surviving, you want things to take away. And those are guys who have big opportunities to create takeaways. Because if Gurr puts himself into a position for depth on the right side next year, great. If Conway shows, well, man, he's a little bit further along than we might have thought, great. If Goodrum gets the opportunity, he was a draft pick. He was a second-round draft pick. Played very well. And he's a kind of player that I think playing with better players around him, it might bring more out of him. So if he gets an opportunity, great. Lopez, we've all been dying to see. He's a different situation entirely. So it's a game that you're looking for things to take out of because the likelihood of taking a victory in the series out is not high. So you're looking for things to take out of it. I think those are guys who could have a huge opportunity to take something out of it. Chris says, I have Brad Gazan as my MVP tonight. Moreno with a 60-yard chip in the 87th. Gazan heads in 2 corners at stoppage time to equalize. And in the 22nd round of penalties, Gazan wins it with a Panenka. It's 2020. Anything can happen.
Yes.
Everybody likes invest in the crest. It's a good one from you.
Hashtag. Michael Head's in this morning. He says that you have good points on making CCL more important, but how do you spend more money on rosters when your income does not allow it? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You got to invest. It's your income is getting better. Now, again, we have to take this year as a whole and put it to the side because of the pandemic. The tournament's different. The financials are different for everybody. Everything's different. It could end up being a little bit of an equalizer in some ways. Over the next few years. We'll see. But you've just got to invest. And I get it from the MLS perspective. I understand why they've structured the league the way they have. I understand the idea with a cap. You're going to see more salary caps in soccer, period. You're seeing it in the lower divisions in England. You're seeing it in China now. It's going to happen because it's a necessity for sustainability. So you're going to have those. You're going to have roster rules. You're going to have more of that in MLS than you would in other countries. I understand that. And I understand why they're there. I understand how they developed. I don't have a giant issue with them because I've watched this league go from an idea to 10 teams playing to getting to 12, then coming back to 10 and wondering if the thing's going to survive. And then now from there up to what it is, which is something that I didn't know if we would get to any time that I would see. So I get it, and they've done the right things. But you're at a little bit of a critical point on multiple fronts. You're coming out of a pandemic that there are going to be leagues and clubs that struggle with more than you will because your structure promotes sustainability. You have the top team in Ligue 1, which might have to sell right now. You have the French league trying to figure out how to make up broadcast revenue that didn't happen because the company went out of business. You got a lot of stuff like that happening worldwide to big clubs. You're going to be okay. Good. Take advantage of that. You've got a World Cup coming in 2026. That could be the rocket ship to take this league to another level. Good. Be ready for that. You have to take advantage of your situation. And if that means, even after a really difficult year, MLS finds a way to invest more. There are things that are not expensive that the league needs to do, I think, to be better in Concacaf. Changing the schedule at times and giving teams a weekend off early in the season. Rearranging the schedule. Throwing that game into a midweek at some point in the summer. Yeah, it's going to affect regular season numbers, but you have playoffs anyway, so it's okay. Do it. Give your teams the best opportunity to win. Give them a deeper roster. Teams also have to commit to playing young players because you're going to need them at times early in a season when you're in CONCACAF. We see it right now with teams in Europe. In league play, sometimes they're having to turn to their young guys. Here, there is still a disconnect with managers, and maybe it's because they don't see the quality coming. Maybe they don't trust the quality coming. But you got to turn to it. You got to give the chance, because it's easy to keep saying it's not good enough. They're not good enough. They're not ready. They're not ready. Well, you just got to find out, and you've got to commit to that, because you might be surprised. Look at how much young American talent starting to come through worldwide. Give them a chance. If that means giving them a chance in a league game early on so you can keep your star designated player healthy, do it. Do those things. But you're going to have to spend more. There's just no way around it. You're going to have to open up the cap further. And I don't know if you're going to be able to do a lot of this with the CBA where it is. You're going to have to create these things, and you're going to have to go back to the Players Association maybe and spend more. And that's an investment. It is the way you have to look at it. You know, it is hard because the financials are not good right now at all. They're better than I think they get credit for, but you're not getting rich off of it. But you don't get rich owning a sports team generally. They're going to make their profits on Soccer United marketing and kill it with Soccer United marketing. Get the rights to whatever you can get, kill it with that, because that will fund the league, and that will allow you to add another designated player. That will allow you to add 2 more guys making $1 million a year to bolster rosters. That will allow you to invest more in your academy and develop better talent coming through. It's going to have to be looked at as an investment to get to that level where you want to get to, and then the payoff can be a couple things. You're reportedly talking about playing in Copa Libertadores and Copa Sudamericana. You got to be a little bit better. Doesn't mean... Don't get it twisted. MLS teams can go and play in these competitions with teams in the group stage that you see from a lot of different countries. The gaps are the same gaps that they are in Mexico. I mean, when Mexican clubs were playing in Libertadores, they were pretty competitive. You know, it's your Bocas, it's your Rivers, it's your top Brazilian clubs. You're going to have problems, just like you have problems with Club America and Monterrey and Tigres. Those are still there. It's the same issue. But you can compete with some of the lesser teams. The problems are going to be the mentality. The problems are going to be dealing with pressure. The problems are those things more than the level of talent, because you've got good teams. But to get to that next level, you've got to spend more. There's just no way around it. You've got to have a deeper roster and a better roster. And you're going to have to invest to do it. Just no way.
Tafka says the MLS U22 may close the gap a bit. Why doesn't the league have a sponsor a la Barclays Premier League?
That's a good question, and I don't know if they've ever had the opportunity to, but it would be a very big change in the United States. I mean, people had issues with them putting sponsors on the jerseys at first because that's unheard of in American sports. I could care less. Oh, no, we're going to have a patch on our NBA jerseys. Do it. Make the money.
Uh-huh.
Do it. Add a second, add a third, add a fourth sponsor. I don't care. I mean, well, I don't want it to look like a NASCAR car. I don't want it to look like a Mexican jersey. Oh, that Tigres jersey would look really good, but it's got all these sponsors on it. Well, how do they have so much talent? How are they so good as a team? How do they have Gignac? How do they have these guys? Money.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? You put sponsors on shirts. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. I do not care about that. If somebody came in and said, we want to be the title sponsor of the league, here is a fat check, and what we want is the league to be even better, so when everybody talks about the league, they're saying our name. Invest it in players. Done. I mean, you got to find that person. You got to find that company. But if somebody came in and wanted to be the title sponsor of the league, do it. And maybe the pandemic's going to open those possibilities because finances are a major issue. Maybe it's going to break down some of those walls of we're in the United States and they don't have sponsors on jerseys in any sport, and people are already weird about this. I don't care what people are. You've got enough of a soccer culture in this country now that you don't have to worry about that. A lot of those people will get on board if you put a good product out. Because we're seeing it here in Atlanta. You have a lot of people who did not grow up with soccer, did not grow up with, thinking back to your favorite team and knowing what sponsor was on the front of their kits at different points in their history. It's just here people don't have that mentality in American sports. But I don't think it's a game breaker for them. I don't think they're going to, not watch because you've got, a second sponsor underneath the number on the back. Do it. And people understand it.
And I would think that because, and especially here in the Southeast, because of the exposure to NASCAR, that you would understand.
Yeah, but it's not the same. Even here in the Southeast, it's not. I heard it from people who, maybe I'm guessing because of an accent, watch NASCAR. It's not that, because they're like, the Falcons don't have that, and the Hawks don't have that, although now they do, and the Braves don't have that. They don't have that. This isn't right. Why isn't it right? It's a sponsor. Yeah. I don't care. I don't know.
What is it that Nick says? Out of chaos comes opportunity.
Yeah. A lot of people said that. Nick has said that. Yes, that's. I don't think Nick coined that phrase. If he did, man, I got to give him more credit. He'll probably call in and yell at me now, but it's reality. You've got a chance to do new things and different things that you can say, we've got to recoup money after the pandemic because we lost $1 billion. So yes, we're going to have a secondary sponsor on the back of the shirt. Yes, we're going to have a title sponsor for the league's cup. Yes, we're going to have a title sponsor for the league. Yes, we're going to have a sponsor on the short. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah,
just do it if you can bring in the revenue for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I want. I want. I want it to be able to grow. And you've asked the owners to put in a lot of money, and they have. And they will continue to do so, I would expect. But you've got to start making it viable for them, so allow them to make more money. Allow them to bring more money in. And they've also got to start thinking about it as a business. That's why you sell players. There's been a lot of complaints about that. There's been a lot of talk about that. That's why you sell players, to grow as a club or to maintain as a club. You develop players and sell them. You bring in good purchases and then sell them to make profit. And you reinvest the profit. So that's another element to it, to where you can make more money. And teams have to be more willing to do that. And I think they're getting there, because I think they're starting to see the proper returns now. The market has improved because of what American players are doing currently in Europe. So there's a little bit more of, hey, let's go get Reggie Cannon and let's get him, and we'll give a big sell-on fee because we don't have a ton of money up front, but we'll make it worth Dallas's while. And they're like, yeah, that would be worth our while. And look at what he's doing, and now he's already attracting big attention. So you're going to have to do more of that to grow the league too. There are things the league can do to make more money. Their owners are going to have to look at it as an investment because it's going to take some time. But the league needs to open up some doors a little bit to allow them to spend more, but allow them to make more. And if that means a title sponsor for the league, if that means a shirt sponsor, an additional one, do it. I don't have a problem with it. Are you going to not like a championship if you have 3 sponsors on your shirt, but those additional sponsors allowed you to get 3 better players? Are you going to not claim the championship and not celebrate it as much because there's an additional sponsor?
Of all the corporate names attached to it.
Really? Is that what we're going to do? No, you're not. So, do it. Do it. See, and Chris, I'll disagree just a little bit here. He says, we looked horrendous in the road leg against America pre-pandemic. Absolutely inexcusable that we come into big CCL games looking dumb in back-to-back years. I don't care about the Joseph injury at all. Play 5-4-1 and park the bus on the road. Maybe if we do that, it's 0-0 or 1-0. Last part, I don't have a huge issue with, but you would have been one of the only ones saying that because a lot of Atlanta fans have issues with that kind of style. I don't. Frank de Boer made a very bold decision to go for it in a lot of ways in that game. It didn't work. I don't think they played well. I mean, I don't think they played horrible. I think they played okay. They gave up some bad goals. Joseph is an issue. Missing Joseph, a week and a half before that game. I mean, that was the second game you played without him. You were still figuring it out. It is a huge issue. But that would lean you to the last part of what you said, is if that means you got to be more defensive and just hold serve and try to get out of there even 1-0 down, yeah, that would have been the approach. In hindsight, I agree. It would have been a better approach. It was an aggressive move from a manager that most people thought was not aggressive enough. It didn't pay off. You had chances. You created some good chances in that game. I'll always wonder, and I don't think we'll ever know, was there a distraction as things were falling apart in our country and sports were looking like they were going to get shut down and stopped? Was there a distraction at that? The timing, maybe not. It just depends on if guys were seeing things as they were getting into the stadium, as they were preparing for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll never know. But it was an aggressive move that did not pay off. And the better move might have been to sit and defend. And I don't have a problem with that mentality at all.
A couple of other folks have just thoughts on the match tonight. Oh, Patrick Sullivan, he says, are we sure that Henri's P hat wasn't for the Providence Clam Diggers of the old American Soccer League? And he says, also, here's hoping Atlanta United can pull off a respectable win tonight or at least hold the line in the aggregate.
That'd be pretty cool. I think he's getting paid to wear it. I hope he's getting paid more than he's getting fined, because he needs to get fined. I mean, you're disrespecting a league sponsor in Adidas. Like, it is. Wear a Montreal hat. Wear a hat. I don't have a problem with wearing a hat, obviously. Wear a Montreal hat.
Yeah.
Or wear a non-branded hat. Wear wear one of my Kangols. I don't think Kangol's going to compete with Adidas in the hat game. They're kind of different. So wear a different one. Like, don't wear a Puma hat with a giant P on it.
Well, but does that P give him plausible deniability? That's not Puma.
I think you can tell if it's got a Puma logo on it somewhere else.
Yeah, if it's got a Puma logo on it somewhere else. But yeah,
I don't think Puma hides that it's their hat. And they put a P on it to hide it.
But Henri can hide that it's a Puma hat, so I don't know. I just wear it. It's a great hat. I love it. I wear it.
Are you being a Fisher-Price lawyer right now?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so. Man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if he tries to pull that one, fine him extra.
Yeah. Rich Ransom says he finally listened to Monday Soccer over there, and he goes, it was wow. He needs Atlanta United to make a USL League 2 team to now go up against the Villages with you doing commentary. And he says, anyway, Atlanta United wins the match tonight, but America wins the series.
We'll see. And that would be funny. Byrne says, did you hear the complaints when the Braves MLB put a Nike swoosh on the uniforms? Baseball's so old. Yeah, that's even different to me. Like, a manufacturer logo should never be an issue. And yeah, I seem to remember that it kind of was. That's even more ridiculous. And for baseball, for me, where it would make sense, and they're going to have to consider it because of how much they lost in the last year, do it underneath a number on the back. You don't want to put it on the front of the shirt because of your history and your tradition and all that. Okay, fine. You'd have to redesign a lot of jerseys and all that stuff. Okay. Put it under the number on the back. Give them the opportunity to sell a sleeve sponsor.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You can start to edge into it. For MLS, you opened the door this year with the MLS's back tournament allowing additional sponsors. Continue it. Continue it until you're back with full people in the stands. Do it for next year. Allow people to sign a deal for up to a certain number of years. Do it. And bring in that extra revenue to make up what you lost. Por favor.
Mm-hmm.
As Kessie says, selling is a way to increase the cap too, and that's another big thing for MLS teams because you get that allocation money, which stretches you further. So you've got to sell to get better and to continue to improve, and then you've got to reinvest properly. Yes, it is a risky thing because you're going to sell and you're going to hope that you're replacing with somebody better because you're going to be able to spend more. You miss sometimes. It happens. But you got to make more hits than misses out in the market. I forgot about this. I'll have to go back and try to read it and laugh. Burns says, I think Dave O'Brien almost had a seizure over the Nike swoosh. Imagine Hank Aaron with a swoosh on the uniform. Man.
Well, if it brought in other players and got folks to protect Hank Aaron in the batting order, where he'd hit more home runs, I don't think folks would mind all that much.
Yeah. Clayton Paul says MLS fan bases would rather crap on MLS teams in CCL than root for the MLS team in CCL because it's not their team. See, I don't really have a huge issue with that. I don't like crapping on the league as a whole. If Orlando was making a CCL run, I would not expect Atlanta United fans to be happy about it. If the Colorado Rapids are, whatever. It's kind of that way in other leagues. I mean, in South America, for example, if River's making a run and doing things, Boca's going to be angry about it. But Newell's fans might be, okay, that's good. That's good for all of us. Cool. That's okay. Like, rivalries can take precedent, but yeah, in general, you want teams to do well. And there's probably going to be somebody in the tournament that you don't have absolute raging hatred for, so you can hope they do okay. It's okay.
Rich Ransom asks, how can MLS front offices care about CCL when for CCL matches they only draw half a regular season MLS match would? I think even still, it's still a learning process on the different competitions teams play.
Well, a lot of that's down to us. A lot of that's down to the media. A lot of that's down to the teams themselves. It's a big occasion. It needs to be treated like it. And that needs to come to sell it. It shouldn't be drawing half. There's no way. It should be a bigger deal. And look, here in Atlanta, you've had issues with the timing of it and getting games in Mercedes-Benz because of long-time contracts. It's a unique situation because of the stadium being multi-purpose. But it hurts it. And I think it hurts it a little bit with the mentality. Although the Monterrey game drew well. So, that's okay. I think you want to see more of that, and you got to figure out ways to be able to do that, hopefully. But in other markets, they just don't market it as a big deal enough. Now, Concacaf needs to do more, too. I think Concacaf is a little too rigid at times with allowing teams to do things to promote it. Like, there's a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of things that make it difficult compared to promoting an MLS match, compared to some of the other things. You can work around it, but when the games are presented in a ha-ha, here we go again, ha-ha, Concacaf-y kind of thing, or when the conversation going into it is, yeah, we don't really care, we're more worried about the league match, which can happen. If you're a team that doesn't have much of an opportunity in the continental competition, and we talked about it last year with Atalanta, we thought maybe they're going to have to punt on Europe and focus on the league, and it paid off for them that they didn't. Now this year is going to be that same question. It maybe should have been that because they're in 9th in the league. It doesn't look like they're going to go back to Champions League. That's a huge issue. But in general, the competition needs to be talked about with more importance. It is a big deal, and it's a huge deal to the Central American and Caribbean teams that get in. It's a big deal to the Mexican teams who generally are competing amongst themselves to win it. It needs to be treated with more importance here. And that's from top down. That is everybody involved in it. I think supporters have an element here. They've got to rally around this. They've got to take more of a little bit more of a promoting idea here. If your members don't understand the importance of it, explain it to them.
Yep.
And teams and media have to help explain it. It is a big deal. It needs to be treated as such. I mean, I guess the other things CONCACAF can do to do that is put more money into it, bigger prizes, things like that, trying to get these games from beyond FS2, and now at least finally they're on English language TV easily, but get them onto an ESPN, get them onto a Fox or an ABC. Like, really take a big push to get this into a bigger place. I hope what they said last night on the broadcast, Victor Montagliani, the president of CONCACAF, He told John Strong that they're going to expand it after the 22 edition. I hope that means a group stage. I hope that means more games. I hope that means all of that will help make it a bigger deal. It needs to be. It needs to be a bigger deal for people to look at it as such.
Yeah, and now that that plan is out there, I want to see us all continue to get behind the notion of how big a deal this is, and continue to sit there and put it out there and have it be more in the American soccer consciousness of this is a big hemispheric competition that we all need to invest our emotion in, our time in, our importance in, and understanding its place here. And that it's not just something that shows up on a secondary television channel where you're sitting there and you're having to fish for it, and sometimes it doesn't show up at 8 o'clock or 10:30 at night. And so that's good stuff that came out last night from the interview.
Okay. What's your favorite global branded league name? Shrats105 asks. Does anything top Uber Eats Ligue 1?
Oh, wow.
I don't think it does.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, that's great work by Ligue 1 to get Uber Eats, and if Uber Eats saw that as a marketing opportunity, more power to it.
Why isn't Uber Eats doing that here?
For real.
Do we get DoorDash? Do we get Postmates? These are probably companies that are doing pretty well at the moment. So
yeah.
Can we get them involved? Can we?
Amazon?
Yeah, but no. Stick with me, John. You're going to confuse it again. You want to do a special here. So you have Postmates. Postmates, I hope you're listening. The Postmates MLS regular season or whatever, and you have Postmates run specials during MLS matches in markets where you can get a discount of 10% or whatever if you order Postmates.
And you use your favorite team's hashtag or whatever as a part of the deal.
Sure.
Because that way you can target market individually and see where all the traffic's coming from.
Thank you, Marketing Expert 101. You do that, and you get it to where people are going to order Postmates before the game, especially when you can't have people in the stands, and watch the game and make it a big deal. Do it, Postmates. Come on. You can beat Uber Eats. You're better. You're better. Do it.
Yes.
Man, trying to help. Yeah. Sam Williamson says Thierry Henry does whatever he wants like the Honey Badger. Well, I hope he gets fined. I think the Honey Badger got fined occasionally. He shouldn't be wearing a Puma hat. That's not cool.
No.
It's not cool. Go ahead.
Rich is back in. He says, a Europa Sudamericana equivalent updated Concacaf League competition needs to be created ASAP. More teams in, the more education that is taught.
Yeah, and I could see that. I think the first step is expanding the Concacaf Champions League, because right now Concacaf League functions as more of a play-in than a secondary competition, because MLS isn't in it, Liga MX isn't in it. So expand CONCACAF Champions League to involve more champions from around the area, like, you know, Costa Rica and Honduras. Their winners should get in automatically. Then the CONCACAF League becomes the second tier. And if you still want to include a component where teams who do well in the previous CONCACAF League get into CONCACAF Champions League, I'm fine with that. You know, lower the number because you're going to increase the Champions League. But I'm fine with that if that's the way you want to go. All right, before we get Mike Conti on the line, you need to thank a good friend of ours, Steve Apolinsky in Decatur, GA.
I could do that. Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network for wrongful death and serious injury matters. A couple different ways that you can get in touch with Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. What are those methods? Well, I'll let you know. You can get a free consultation by calling Steve up. 404-377-9191. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com, or you can use the World Wide Web, large device or small. In your taskbar, aa-legal.com, hit enter, hit return, hit the arrow key, whatever advances the screen forward for you. and you go to aa-legal.com, the homepage for Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, a pop-up window pops up because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up. Someone is on the other end of that pop-up window, and they can have a conversation with you and answer each and every question that you might have 24/7, 365 and a quarter. You can do it that way by phone or by email. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama for wrongful death or serious injury matters, as they are recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. There's only one place to go for wrongful death and serious injury matters, the website aa-legal.com for Apolinsky & Associates, LLC.
Wow. I can't wait to see the judges on this one. Oof. That got weird.
It spun.
It did something. I don't know what it did.
Morning.
Need more Mountain Dew to do the proper ad read? Is that what you're saying?
This is the first Mountain Dew that we've had today.
Because you spilled the rest, right?
Pretty much. Take two.
Man. Madness, John.
Morning.
As Mateo is working in the background to get Mike Conti on the line.
Come on, Mateo.
Mike's busy. There's a lot of stuff going on. So
yes, there is.
Hopefully he is able to jump in. We will have stoppage time later this afternoon.
And when is stoppage time, sir?
2 p.m. Facebook.com/929thegame. Okay, the die has been cast, and hopefully Mike will be able to join in.
Est.
Do you want to explain that one?
That's what it is in Latin. Alia jacta est. The die is cast.
So John starts speaking Latin, and Mike Conti appears.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm sorry. I can't put that one on Mateo. I guess Skype was closed on my phone.
It's all good.
It's the weirdest thing. Like in 2021, this is going to be my New Year's resolution to figure out why some Skype calls to me ring my phone and some do not. That's going to be my New Year's resolution. If anyone on the Twitch pitch might have a little bit of insight on that, that would be super helpful.
The only thing I can think of, and I think you do it on the place you want to be your primary Skype spot. Like for me, it's my laptop. You can say that it only notifies you of calls there. Like I don't want my desktop Skype to open up when we're doing the show or anything.
Well, it's weird. Like I don't know if I downloaded like iOS that isn't doing it now, but it used to be that you would call, or Mateo, excuse me, would call me on Skype and my phone would ring. And now it doesn't happen anymore, except when we do stoppage time, and then it does ring. It's very weird.
It's a weird morning. It's a weird time with Concacaf, and games last night didn't go so well. I think Montreal made a good game of it. NYC made a good half of it.
Yeah.
What do you think happens tonight for Atlanta?
I think they'll play very, very carefree. And I think just based on the context clues from Darren's interview on Dukes and Bell yesterday, I get the impression that they're going to be very, very reluctant to play any veterans who may have any kind of lingering knocks or injuries or anything like that. So in other words, I think what you're going to see tonight is a real opportunity. And Darren even mentioned Jackson Conway by name. I think you're going to get a real opportunity for the young kids. And I think that's awesome, by the way. If you want to give Jack Gurr or Jackson Conway or Philip Goodrum or Tyler Wolf or even an Eric Lopez, I think Lopez for sure is going to play tonight. I think they've been very, very eager to get him playing. But for guys like that, who unfortunately, because of the protocols and everything, didn't really have a whole lot of opportunities to play for the first team this year. Not only do you get to play for the first team tonight, but you're going to get to do so against Club America. And I just think that's great. I think it's a real opportunity to help these kids grow. You can only grow by playing. And by playing a team like Club America, it's a little bit of baptism by fire. But, if you don't get a result tonight, I don't want to say who cares, but you weren't really coming into this expecting a whole lot. I think a good outcome tonight would be a win. if you could come out of this with like a 2-1 win or a 3-2 win, you're not going to go through. But I think that would be a really positive way to end a very turbulent season. And I think you're going to give the kids and the younger players an opportunity to go get it for you tonight. I do think Kubo Torres is going to play. I almost feel like they kind of owe him a little bit for sticking around and even though he's out of contract, sticking around and helping the team tonight. He obviously has a ton of experience in Liga MX against Mexican teams, so that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I gotta give him a ton of credit. I really do. I mean, he's a guy that struggled. He's struggled for a little while. He went to Tijuana, didn't really get playing time, out of contract, comes to Atlanta, worked hard. I mean, put himself in good positions. Could not find the back of the net on a regular basis, and it had a big effect. And you're not going to pick up the contract because you've got Joseph Martinez coming back, you've got Jackson Conway sliding in. But he could have left. He could be on vacation. He could be on the beach. He could be calling around looking for a new job next year. He's putting in the work. You got to give him a ton of credit. I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah. I do too. And I think one other selection for Glassy tonight I'm going to be curious to see is do you give Ben Lundgaard an opportunity to keep goal tonight? That wouldn't shock me either. Can is out. You signed Lundgaard for a reason, and I guess Brad could play tonight, but why not let Lundgaard keep goal? I mean, this is kind of where I'm at with this match tonight. Like, whatever happens, happens. You lose, you get to go home, have a nice Christmas, and rest and relax before opening training camp with a new coach. You win by less than 4, even better. You go into that break on a really positive note. If you win by 4 or more, well, then you're still going in the tournament. That's really good.
That's great.
So in my opinion, there's really no, short of a catastrophic injury, there's really nothing bad that can come out of tonight. You lose to Club America, you in all likelihood weren't going to go through in this series anyway. You get a draw or a win, that's something you can feel really good about. And if you win big, then my goodness. I mean, now you're suddenly talking about a continental championship, and that changes the complexion of the season completely.
Well, and Mike, I mean, the way that I've tried to break it down to folks is like, this is like your bowl game. This is where you're getting those extra reps. You're getting the younger guys, the experience going forward. You're getting that extra stuff to get you ready for 2021, which is really coming up quickly. This is that bowl game practice run that ends in your bowl game tonight, possibly.
Yeah, but this is also Northern Illinois playing Florida State.
Florida State's 3-6, brother.
Okay, or Western Michigan playing Wisconsin, or you probably get the analogy.
Yeah,
I mean, not only is it an opportunity to have the quote unquote bowl practices, where you get this mini camp to kind of bridge what could be a very, very long off season. Just having that little training camp, I think, is very beneficial. But now you're going into, and I'll use the Northern Illinois, Western Michigan, Boise State example. You get to have your bowl practices, but you're also playing in a very meaningful bowl. Mm-hmm. And you're not the favorite. You're the heavy underdog, but you get to play in a meaningful bowl where there is a huge payoff if you win, or if you do what you need to do to go forward. So it's interesting. It's a very, very low expectation, high reward situation for Atlanta United tonight. The MLS teams didn't do all that great last night. I agree with Jason. I think Montreal played about as well as they could. Yeah. New York City, I think their COVID situation probably really messed them up. Yeah, and they hung in for a little while.
They had a good half. They had a good half. They needed a goal early because they were producing well. They weren't getting to the final third the way they needed to, but they were controlling the game in the first half.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for what I saw last night, because I think you had 4 teams who went in there with an initiative to play, 4 teams that looked like they wanted to be there. I think there's been a lot of under our breath muttering in the soccer media about restarting this tournament, and I think some people are projecting their beliefs on this tournament that because I don't want to see it resume, I don't think the players want to play. And I think we saw proof last night that that's not the case. And, and it's like I've said a couple times, guys, either on this show or on Stoppage Time. Once you start the match and the whistle blows, any thought of I don't want to be here goes away very, very quickly. The competitive juices start going, and you know those thoughts in the back of your head about whether or not it's meaningful to even play this match just goes completely away. I give a lot of credit to the 4 teams that played last night. I thought you saw honest effort. I think for New York City in particular, God, they had to travel the day of the match after all the COVID stuff, and they went in there and they hung in as long as they could. Real tip of the cap to them. Real tip of the cap. And I thank those 4 teams for giving us the performances that they gave last night. They were entertaining. I think we're going to get that tonight from Atlanta United and the 3 other teams we're going to see in Orlando.
One more thing on Concacaf before we move on, because we got a bunch of different things to jump into. I think you're trying to find the balance, I think, between playing guys to get them some experience and giving yourself an opportunity to compete. And we need to get, maybe in this country, maybe it's MLS, maybe it's just the mentality. We need to get to the mentality that we've seen Shakhtar when they went to Real Madrid and they had like 13 positive COVID cases. And they had to take kids from their U23s, and they went in and won. You know, we've seen Lazio go in and win where they had a bunch of kids making up the bench, and they were missing a whole bunch of players. We need to get to the idea that, twofold, you know, we're giving guys proper experience because they need it to progress, they need it to grow. But we also need to get those guys developed well enough to where when they get that opportunity, it's not just minutes to say, hey, I was on the field with Club America. It's to say, hey, I can compete here too, and I'm trying to impress Gabriel Heinze, whoever's coming in, as to say I can compete next year in the league.
Well, and that's what makes tonight, I think, really fascinating, because you do have the specter of Heinze who's going to get the film of this, if not watch it live. Yeah. I'm sure his evaluation starts tonight.
I wonder if he's watching with a Malbec or a Cerveza tonight.
Ooh. If I'm not afraid of him yelling at me, maybe I'll ask him what his drink of choice is.
You got to catch him at the right moment.
Man, they produce such good. Is he from Mendoza, like Marcelino Moreno, or is he from another part of the country?
I'll have to check. Because, I think he's from out in the Rosario area, but I'll have to check.
Okay. All right, yeah, if he's from Mendoza, then I'm sure he's drinking a Malbec. I mean, I'd love to ask him the question. I feel like I'm going to get yelled at, so I'll be kind of tiptoeing around him for a while until he gets to know me, if we even get to know him.
Maybe there are other individuals that we can have ask that question instead.
Well, let's have everyone starting on the positive foot. I don't want to. We'll see. I think that might be a question I have to get cleared in advance. But no, I mean, he's going to watch this tonight, all right? And I would guess he has probably assembled an idea of what his technical staff will be. They're going to watch this tonight. You know, you aren't necessarily paying as much attention to guys that you know are going to be here, like Franco Escobar, if he's to play tonight. I'm guessing Moreno might be available off the bench. You're not worried about guys like that. I think you're really going to be looking hard if you're Gabriel Heinze at Tyler Wolff. All right, kid, what can you do for me? Jackson Conway, Jack Gurr if he gets to play, Phil Goodrum if he gets to play tonight, Lundgaard if he gets to play tonight. I think those are the players that have a really unique opportunity, and I think this is also kind of the end result, the payoff, if you will, to the very hard work that they've put in during this minicamp. So we're going to see the outcome of it tonight. I'm very, very anxious to see how they respond to it. It's a good opportunity for them.
All right, let's move around to some other stuff, because we could keep going on the game, but man, it's busy. Austin and what they've done so far. They picked 4 guys that they kept in the expansion draft yesterday. They made a bunch of moves on Sunday. How do you feel about Austin FC's roster build at this point?
I feel like they've got a lot of flexibility to go out and do something big if they want. Outside of that, okay. I mean, it's a solid-looking roster right now, but I'm not overwhelmed. Remember, I mean, Nashville, they made some of their big moves right at the death. Like, I think Zimmerman was a February acquisition, wasn't he?
Yeah.
If I'm remembering that correctly. I think their first DP wasn't signed until after New Year's Day, if I'm remembering that correct. I might be wrong on that.
No, they signed Mukhtar late last year.
Okay, but it was after the expansion draft and re-entry and all that stuff, right?
I don't think so. I think they actually got him locked in pretty early, but he wasn't a huge designated player signing. Like
No. But he was a designated player signing.
Yeah.
My point is, I think Austin, they've done a really good job of giving themselves flexibility to go out and do something now. It's going to be, I think, a test of their international scouting to see what exactly they end up pulling off. But, what they've done so far is solid, not spectacular.
And one of those names that went over is John Gallaher. So Gallaher gets to be a part of something new after what we saw from him this past season with Atlanta United.
I hope he does well there. I think John probably proved that he's an everyday MLS player last year. So I hope he gets the opportunity to go there and play. I think he'll do really well. He's a great guy to have in the dressing room. He's not going to cause you problems. He's going to be solid. He's going to come in and work every day, and he's going to be impactful on matches. But I think Austin is still a very incomplete team at this point. So I think it's a little bit hard to judge on exactly what John Gallaher's role is going to be with him.
News came out late last night. I think it was around midnight on Instagram. Kevin Molino announced he is not going to re-sign with Minnesota. He is a free agent. Where do you think he might end up?
Wow.
I'm surprised that he's already saying he's not going back.
That's a nice player to be out there in free agency. Mm-hmm. And by the way, there are a lot of nice players available in free agency who are out of contract right now. There's some nice players who are in the re-entry process and the waiver process. So, teams are going to have the ability to go out and go shopping. Is Molino a high-level TAM player, a mid-level TAM player? I mean, to answer your question on where he might go, I think I need to probably get a better idea of his salary expectations.
So we don't know this year because they were never posted, but 2019 he was right around $500,000.
Okay, so he's a high TAM player. He's probably looking to go to $750, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, that's actually not high TAM. It would be TAM. I think he's trying to get into the TAM level because he was probably right at that max number before TAM would kick in.
So, help me. It isn't high TAM like 900.
No, it's more like 1.5, 1.6.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's as far. That's the big number you can stretch to.
He's a TAM, but he's not a high TAM.
Yeah, he's definitely a TAM. He might be a high TAM now after what he did at the end of the season.
He might be. Yeah, no, he definitely had a prove-it year, and the fact that he's entering free agency. I mean, I don't know if he got a bona fide offer or not, but
he's not tied to Minnesota. He is a total free agent.
Total free agent. Very interesting. Interesting on Minnesota's part then too. Jason, I don't know. John, I don't know. He wherever he goes, he will help them. I don't think any of the 27, well now 26 if you don't count Minnesota. I mean, I think there are 26 clubs out there that could probably find a role for Kevin Molino and he could really help them out. I think what it comes down to is who has the most salary cap flexibility to be able to fit him in.
He's 30. He's predominantly left side, but can play in the middle as well, like behind a forward, not really as a number 9, a true number 9.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big one. I mean, a Sporting Kansas City could look at him, and he would fit in well with them, I think. I don't know about how much he would want to press with like a San Jose. Real Salt Lake, obviously, if they want to spend, that's going to be the other element. If somebody's going to actually pony up the cash.
And who's signing the checks right now? I mean, that's That's going to be really tricky.
I'll tell you the spot, and I know at least one person out there listening will have a strong opinion. They might agree or they might not. Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He could really fit at Philadelphia in a couple different spots. He could play that number 10 in the diamond. When they go to a 4-2-3-1, he could play on the left side. He would give them another element. Philadelphia might be a good fit.
They should have the room, too.
Yeah.
I don't know what the final number is on Aronson and what they're getting, but I'd imagine they would probably have room to take on a mid-level TAM player. That's a good shout. That would make Philadelphia would be a pain in the butt to play if you had Kevin Molino to that group. Mm-hmm. It makes them deeper. It makes them all the more threatening. They're already young and solid in the back. They got the best goalkeeper in the league, so that would make Philadelphia. I mean, if they feel like they were one missing piece away from winning it all, and you might be able to make that argument, Kevin Molino could be that piece. That'd be a really smart signing for them.
Well, and you mentioned I'm gonna leave the option guys off to the side, but then you look at the other guys who are out of contract right now. You're looking at folks like Tommy McNamara. You're looking at Brian Rowe in net. You're looking at, does somebody take a flyer on somebody like a Kyle Beckerman? Freddie Montero, if you're looking for scoring off the bench or things like that. So there, to your point, Mike, there are some guys out there, just out of contract guys, that could be those pieces for some clubs.
Boy, Beckerman would be, if he wanted to play on, and he wasn't married to the idea of finishing out his career in Salt Lake, Beckerman might be a really smart guy for Austin to pick up and give him the armband. I think we saw Nashville really benefit from having a veteran like Dax McCarty in there this year. Beckerman might be someone who can provide a similar level of leadership for Austin. Again, though, I don't know if he wants to play on, and B, if he's in an all or nothing situation with Salt Lake where he does not want to relocate again. I think Beckerman also culturally would be a good fit for Austin. I mean, it just kind of strikes me as an Austin type of style guy, a little bit.
It was the dreadlocks, right?
Back. What's that?
It was the dreadlocks, right, that he used to have?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I know he doesn't have it anymore.
Before he went corporate Kyle?
Before he turned into corporate Kyle.
Before he went and got the librarian haircut. Yeah, no, I mean, Beckerman strikes me as a very laid-back type of guy who I think the Austin fans would really embrace him.
So,
could you imagine Beckerman in the MOC? The Minister of Culture?
Yeah, they might be able to hang out. I could see that, I think, from what we know of Kyle. Kyle gets pretty feisty. He's picked up a few red cards in his day.
Yeah.
Let's get into just the big picture with MLS going into 2021 and kind of where things stand. So a lot of the teams that did well this season are going to do well again. I don't think there's an expectation that Seattle falls apart. I don't think there's an expectation Columbus does. People will expect Atlanta to be back at the top, LAFC to be back at the top. Maybe Toronto is one of the biggest questions. Who jumps out to you as teams that need to be busy in the offseason to improve, or teams that need to be careful not to fall off that top?
Busy LA Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Got to be pressure out there, right?
Oh my God. I mean, just a massive disappointment this year. Now, I mean, look, if they end up hiring Banny, and I guess that rumor mill has gone a little bit quiet.
They haven't talked, at least I think, from the weekend. They had not talked. And one other thing on coaches that I meant to include, Brian Schmetzer said on radio in Seattle, I guess last night, because Sounder at Heart had it pretty late, he told KJR in Seattle that the Sounders have reached out to his agent about a new deal. He said, if I were a betting man, I think I'll be back.
Yeah, remember our buddy Jason?
Yeah.
I was talking with him the other night, and he said he thought that Schmetzer would be back, but that they might lose Pineda, and that Pineda would be a big loss for them. But yeah. I think the general feel out there is that that Schmetzer is going to be back. He might not get exactly what he wants numbers-wise, but he'll be back.
He doesn't want to leave.
Yeah. But anyhow, if Galaxy hires Vanny, that's a good first step. But I think personnel-wise, we saw that that's a very, very top-heavy group. They need to get deeper, and they've got a lot of work to do. Miami is a situation that I cannot wait to see how this evolves.
Yeah.
This is bizarre. This Diego Alonso, you're fired, maybe not. Maybe I'll go to Penarol anyway.
Yeah, now Peñarol's president's like, I will do anything to bring you to Peñarol. I have said this, I will do it.
I don't blame him. I don't blame and I mean, I don't know what happened in this meeting the other day, but it sounds like Diego Alonso would be very, very eager to make that move.
Yeah.
So the Miami thing's a real mess. You brought in a lot of big name, high ego guys, and you didn't get the immediate payoff. There was no patience whatsoever. You did not get the immediate payoff that you expected. Nashville, who came in the same expansion class, ended up being much better than you this year. And then you look at the guys that Miami exposed in the expansion draft. They exposed Will Trapp.
Well, he's a free agent. So,
he's a free agent anyway, I guess. But
it
still,
looks like he's gone.
They have got a ton of work to do, and we don't know who's making the decisions.
Yeah.
So I think from a soap opera standpoint, Miami not only needs to get busy, but there's a lot of mystery surrounding them.
Telenovela, Inter Miami.
Yeah, really. As far, what was the other part of this teams that need to stand pat? I don't remember the second half of your question.
Yeah, just mainly who are you looking at as teams that could move up or down going into next year?
Okay, yeah. I'm very bullish on Nashville. Cincinnati, I'll tell you what. I mean, I feel like this is the second straight offseason now where we've heard Cincinnati linked to some players, and you're like, wow, really? Cincinnati might be in the market for that guy? I think Cincinnati potentially could make a big move up if they just maintain continuity through this offseason. I think Red Bulls can be a lot better. Everything I've heard about Gerhard Struber is very, very promising, and that he could be an outstanding leader of that team. But obviously Atlanta. I mean, I think I tweeted on Saturday. I mean, if you look at the last decade in MLS, in like 6 of the last 10 years, you've had instances of teams that have finished near the bottom of the league, immediately turn around and either make a cup final or win the Shield. And most recent precedent, obviously, being Columbus. So things can turn around really, really quickly if you make the right moves. And obviously Atlanta is going to be looked at as a team that, I think, along with LA Galaxy, those are going to be the two teams that are going to be looked at as having the highest ceiling to move up because of the ambition of their clubs, the managerial hires that have been rumored with those two clubs. And I think, in Atlanta's case, at least, a roster nucleus that really isn't that bad. I mean, Atlanta United adds the league MVP next year. A guy who was already on the team. So it's not like you're spending any additional money or making a trade or anything to bring in Joseph Martinez, but it's almost like a new acquisition in a way because he didn't play for you last year. So I think Atlanta's a lot closer than Galaxy. I think Atlanta has less work to do than Galaxy. But those are the two teams that I think can make – and Houston's another one, too, that I'm just going to keep an eye on. Just because I like their group, but I don't know how much of that group's going to be back.
Yeah, I can't figure out Houston. I think they're going to get really young. I think it'll be the group that Tab will kind of build going forward, but next year might be a process, too. If they get into the playoffs next year, that's a good accomplishment for Tab.
No doubt.
I think that's a big accomplishment. All right, I'm going to end. Last question for you is from Christopher Abel on the Twitch pitch. If I told you 2 good things would happen in the first 20 minutes tonight, either Atlanta goals or Club America red cards, would you rather get 2 goals early, 2 America Reds early in the first 20 minutes, or one of each? Which gives us the best chance?
Well, if Atlanta United gets 2 goals in the first 20 minutes, then wow, game on. And Club America gets really, really tight, and that self-doubt's going to creep in with Club America. They aren't in a great run of form right now, and they're going to be shorthanded too. Man, if you could get 2 goals in the first 20 minutes, I'd be ecstatic. And obviously, I'd like to beat these guys 11 on 11 if you could.
I could care less. They could end up with 7. I don't care.
2 send-offs in the first 20 minutes would be
amazing.
very, very Concacaf-y.
Yep. I'll take one of each.
If you get 2 goals and 2 send-offs.
No, you can't do that. That's greedy. That's greedy, Mike. That's very greedy. I'll take a goal and a red card gives me the best chance to go through. Because I've got the goal that gives me life, and I'll have a man advantage for at least 70 minutes. That's the one I'm going to go with.
The one thing you just absolutely cannot do is concede early tonight. If you do, then it's all over. Because then that gives America the... I don't think El Piojo would do this, but it would give them the ability to just go and sit and bunker. And that seems kind of counter to the way that El Piojo works, but they could do it. I would hate to see that. All the pressures on Club America tonight. You heard Miles Robinson, you heard Jurgen Damm say that on Monday. They are right. All the pressures on them. Disappointing playoff for Club America. They're up 3-0. Everyone in the world is expecting them to go through tonight. If you score early, that really changes the complexion of things. If you give up one early, it's over. Yep. I'm looking for this to be very similar to the second leg against Monterrey last year, where you outplayed them, you beat them. You didn't do enough to overcome the aggregate, but you outplayed them and beat them. And that was really one of Atlanta United's better performances in the first half of last season. And it really created a positive vibe going into really a stretch of matches not long after that, where you were really controlling and shutting teams out and getting wins. And it could be a similar deal going into the 2021 season. But that's what it comes down to for me tonight, guys. If you give up an early goal, we might be able to go to bed at halftime.
Nah, not going to do that. That'd be early. That's at like 9 o'clock, Mike.
Yeah, I'm an old man now.
All right, what's the plan for the rest of the day?
Stoppage time. 2 p.m. on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. So we'll see you all over on Facebook for that.
All right, join us for that. We'll take more questions about this. There could be some free agent stuff by then. Free agency opens at 1 o'clock, so if anybody's already worked out a deal, it could get announced quickly. Could be other trades and such. I'll be curious to see if somebody picks up Andrew Carlton in the waiver process. That'll happen later today too. I kind of think somebody will. I do.
Well, I'm not as sure as you.
I think somebody will take a flyer, and I think he'll end up somewhere in the league. I just don't know where. And look, he might have to prove himself with the second team or whatever, but I think somebody will take a flyer because of his talent. We'll see what happens.
I think Andrew's problem is going to be when his references are checked.
Yeah,
when you apply for a job and you get to that last stage of the interview, okay, who are some references we can check? Depending on the references that are on the list for that acquiring team, I hope Andrew gets another chance, but his track record as a pro and doing the things you needed to do to be a pro, unfortunately, it speaks for itself, and I'm wondering if that might hurt him. But it would be a very low-risk, high-reward move for an MLS team to take a flyer on him.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, is I think somebody will take a flyer because of the low risk. So we'll see. That'll happen before free agency opens. Free agency at 1 o'clock, and then stoppage time at 2. Thanks, Mike.
Okey-doke, guys. Take care.
Be good.
All right, make sure you're following him, Mike Conti929, on social media. A couple bits of stuff that have been happening. We talked about Schmetzer. We talked about Molino. This is an interesting one. So IFAB approved global trials of permanent concussion substitutes today. Now, this is not what we've been calling for. This was consultation with key stakeholders and recommendations from the Concussion Expert Group and IFAB's Football and Technical Advisory Panels. Approved extensive trials with additional permanent substitutions for actual or suspected concussion as of January. That can start in January. And Dale Johnson at ESPN says the Football Association in England will bring in permanent concussion substitutes at the earliest opportunity after this approval. They have agreed on the implementation of protocols that will be the basis for the trials. The members agreed that in the event of an actual or suspected concussion, the player in question should be permanently removed from the match to protect their welfare, but the player's team should not suffer a numerical disadvantage. This approach, they say it's going to prevent the player sustaining another concussion, sends a strong message that if in doubt, the player is withdrawn, but no disadvantage. Reduces the pressure on medical personnel to make a quick assessment. Simple to operate, can be applied at all levels of the game, including most of football that is played without doctors or medically qualified staff available on site. Curious to see how that works out.
Yeah.
Confederations, FAs, competition organizers via their national FA interested in participating in these trials have to apply to FIFA, apply to IFAB. They have to ensure that the official protocols are used in their entirety and the feedback is given. Other things they did today, they approved the extension of the temporary amendment to allow up to 5 substitutes in top-level competition. That runs through domestic competitions ending December 31st, 2021. So MLS could use it for the 2021 season. For international competitions ending by July 31st, 2022. They all agreed as well to assess the ongoing impact of the pandemic going forward. Other topics, says clarifications related to the laws of the game were discussed, including circumventing the deliberate pass to the goalkeeper, stoppage time, and offenses against outside agents. Given that the interpretation of handball incidents has not always been consistent, the members agreed that further clarification should be considered at the AGM, which I believe is in March. Yes, it is in March. It was agreed that not every touch of a player's hand-arm with the ball is an offense. In terms of unnaturally bigger, referees should judge the position of the hand-arm in relation to the player's movement in that phase of play. That sounds like we're moving back to giving referees the ability to actually assess and interpret the situation. They also talked more about the latest developments with video assistant referees, in particular with future innovations that could include more affordable VAR systems to allow competition organizers with limited budgets to use VAR. So this meeting shapes the agenda for the AGM, which will be on March 5th, which is where proposed changes or amendments to the laws of the game are considered for approval. I would assume there will be something that happens with the handball law there in March for next season. I'll be curious to see what they do with this concussion situation. So what we had talked about was a temporary sub so the player could be assessed. IFAB and FIFA have went one step further. It's a sub that doesn't count if there is a concussion or a suspected concussion. I do wonder what some of the parameters of suspected concussion are.
Yeah.
And I really hope, and I will, and I'm sure some others will too, but I really hope it is consistent. If a manager tries to circumvent this, that they are roundly criticized on a regular basis. This is not something to try to take advantage of. And that's why I'm wondering parameters. Is there an independent medical person who is involved? Do the leagues get to create some of those parameters? I don't know. I'm a little surprised that it went to this step this quickly.
Yeah.
I thought there might be a temporary sub issue first. Premier League clubs, according to Dale Johnson, are expected to hold a vote on Thursday and join the FA in allowing each team to have up to 2 concussion subs per game. So, okay, they are putting a limit on it. That's interesting. If a team is forced into a change, the opposition will be granted an additional substitute to use. Okay, that's also interesting. An alternative trial option put forward by the IFAB would give only 1 concussion substitute per team, but the opposition would not be allowed to make another change. Okay, so that's in the options that they're given to trial. So they could give up to 2 concussion subs each game, and if a team makes a sub, then the opposition would get an additional sub. So that would maybe prevent people trying to use this and take advantage of it. The other one is one concussion sub, but the opposition doesn't get a bonus sub. FA CEO Mark Bullingham says, whilst 2 suspected concussions on one team are incredibly unlikely, it is nonetheless a possibility. So we think having an option where that's possible is better. There are pros and cons of both models, but the advantage of the model where you can have substitutes coming on for the other team we think is fairer. What do you think, John?
Now, I just to clarify, the idea of the concussion sub would go on trial in January while all the other stuff, handball and everything, would be discussed at the AGM in March. They're not going to hold off on the sub until the AGM. They're going to trial it in January, right?
Yeah. No, this is getting trialed straight away.
Yeah.
This is not a change to the laws of the game yet. This is the trial phase.
So for me, obviously, the question is, who is the evaluator? What's the analysis? I know that in American football, you have the 40-question questionnaire to determine level of concussion, your name, color, those kinds of things. But the biggest thing for me is the evaluation. Is it an independent evaluation? Who is approved? And what that process is. And the substitution thing for me is interesting, that the other team would get an additional sub if a concussion sub is allowed in. I thought that was an interesting dynamic. And is it up to 2 and is it 1? And that to me is what I'm going to be paying attention to.
Well, it sounds like leagues will have the option to do that. FIFPro, the players union, wanted IFAB to bring a temporary sub on for a 10-minute assessment period. It was decided that permanent subs would be safer. And this a lot came from medical personnel. So if it's backed up by the doctors, I'm completely fine with it. And this is Dr. Charlotte Cowie, the FA's head of medicine. Says there's 2 stages to the assessment of a player. One is, could they be concussed? And that's a decision that always has to be made quickly on the pitch. The second one is a confirmation as to whether you think that they are concussed or not. And that is made off the pitch, and where there's a temporary substitute that is made in 10 minutes with a possibility that at the end of the 10 minutes they go back on the pitch again, which is a very pressured decision potentially. Yeah. Which I get. And if you can't do it then fine. And this is exactly what I was looking for. This makes me much more comfortable with this change. The risk of the temporary substitute, the data we have from World Rugby, where their assessment of protocols in terms of temporary substitutes suggests that the false negative rate is around 15%. So if you're talking about 15% of players who got sent back onto the pitch, who it turned out later did actually have concussion, that's what we're trying to avoid. That's good enough for me. Then I'm 100% on board with this. I thought maybe it was a little too far. If you've got numbers, and rugby's studied it, and they've done temporary subs, and you've got 15% of people that are going back on and they're concussed, and you're putting them at risk of serious injury all the way up to death, then yeah, I'm absolutely good with it being a permanent. That's fine.
Couple of things on the Twitter just to catch up after our discussion this morning. Jonathan Ward wants to know, okay, Soccer Down here, what's it going to take besides goals and some solid backline work to beat America?
So I can't use goals and solid backline work. I think for what we're probably going to see lineup-wise, and this has been a hot topic, and it's interesting to see the different takes on it. I think you're going to have to see some changes to the lineup just because of who's available, and that's going to force some guys in and give them opportunities. I'm of the opinion I wouldn't just play guys to play guys. I'm looking to be competitive here, but you're going to see Lopez, which is no problem. I think there's a very strong possibility you see Jack Gurr. I think there's a possibility you see Jackson Conway. So when you look at what the lineup will be, I think they'll be in a 4-3-3. I think they'll play in the way that we've seen them play. They need to be aggressive. That's the number one thing, is you want to make it uncomfortable for Club America, because I think they're going to be in a weird state of mind coming in. They're coming off a bad result against Chivas. They're coming in with some pressure. You've got guys who are going to be leaving the club. Like, they're unsettled. So make them uncomfortable. And whatever lineup gives you the best ability to play with more pressure up high on a night where you're not going to be as talented as the opposition, do it. And if that means you are going to be trying to force Club America into turnovers and bad spots, that's what could give you the best opportunity to get this done with the group that you'll have. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see some risks in that area because I think it gives you the best possibility. You get an early goal and really unsettle Club America all on board. But you've got to make them uncomfortable, and I think you can do that with more pressure, maybe less of an emphasis on possession at the beginning, and more about pressuring the opponent.
And Tafka's in there. He says, give the kids a taste when honestly expectations are low, and he posted a starting 11.
See, and that's where I think some people are getting really frustrated, which I understand. I would not play kids just to play kids. I think some of the kids are going to have to play.
Yeah.
Just because of who's there. And yeah, Unc, I know, we're unsettled too. I understand. They'll be doing similar things. No, Club America is not a pressure team. That's not. Let me be clear on what you do here. You're both going to be unsettled. They have more talent. You try to neutralize that as best you can. So you play by pressing the opposition, which, I mean, let's be honest. That's what it looks like you're going to be playing next year. Why not start?
Yeah.
Why not start now? Give the instruction of don't try to play out of the back in the first 15 minutes. Play long. If you don't win the ball initially, press. Press in these ways. Press on these triggers and try to make them uncomfortable. I think that gives you the best opportunity here because you're not going to be as talented as them. I think you are or you can be, and we can debate it at full strength. You're not going to be tonight. It's not just Joseph, and I guess that still upsets people that we talk about his injury. You don't have a starting number 9. You don't have your starting right back in Brooks Lennon. You don't have, it sounds like, Jurgen Damm 90 minutes fit. You don't have Marcelino Moreno 90 minutes fit. So you're not going to be as talented. So you got to find an equalizer. I think pressure can be that.
And in the discussion that we had with Mike about players out of contract, the Kevin Molino conversation came up with Tafka. He wanted to know possible target, room on the roster, room on the cap. He's played centrally before. I'm assuming no to all of these questions, but what a great get if we could pull it off.
I'd have no problem with it, but I think you're looking bigger. I don't know if that would move the needle in this town. And that's fine. I think he's a very good MLS attacking player. I think with an open international slot, we don't know how much money you'll have to spend. We don't know what the cap is. I think you're probably looking to make more of an impact than Kevin Molino. At 32 and some of the injuries he's had, I'm a little more skeptical of it. You know, we don't know what he's asking for. If he's asking for, you know, that number right around the contract max, it's not a bad deal. If he's asking for $1 million a year, I think it's too much. It's a tough one, but I don't think Atlanta's the fit for him. I think positionally it could be. I also worry about what we think is going to be the system with Gabriel Heinze. More pressure, more aggressiveness. That might be harder for a player of his age to get the most out of. I think you're probably going to go younger.
That officially catches us up on the Twitters for now.
Clayton Poss with a good question, and I'd love to hear from you guys what you think. Would people rather lose big attacking or being aggressive, let's say, instead of just putting it purely attacking, defending? Because you can do both in different ways. Would you rather lose big going for it? I'm going to rephrase, Clayton. Or would you rather keep it tight by bunkering? What are people going to be more comfortable with? And I don't know the answer. I can't answer that for you. I don't know how people will feel. I think you can be more aggressive here, and I would do it from defending up high, and I think that's going to be your best opportunity here. So, which is defending. You're playing with a defensive strategy, but you're doing it far away from your goal. So it's defending, but it's not bunkering, and it can create some opportunities. I think it's your best shot. We'll see. You could look to counter. I mean, you can create a structure. You know, if you wanted to play a 5-3-2, 5-4-1 kind of setup, but with wingbacks who can get forward and flip the field, you've got the pieces to do that. Bello and Gurr as wingbacks in that role. You could play Escobar, Meza, and Robinson as your three center backs. You could have Lopez up top with his pace to get in behind, either with somebody, a John or a Conway, or by himself. You've got the pieces to go either way. I'd like to see them maybe start to show a little bit of what we might see if Gabriel Heinze is the manager.
Nick Brawley wants to know, so who gets the hat trick for us tonight?
Who would be the most likely to get a hat trick in this game tonight? It's been a lot on Eric Lopez with 16 professional games at the club level. It's been a lot of Jackson Conway with more games at the professional club level, but not at the first division level. I think it gets spread around. Unless it's going to be somebody like Robinson coming up on set pieces. I got nothing. I think it gets spread around.
Yeah, no, I had a 2-1 final tonight for Atlanta United. They win the game but lose in the aggregate.
Yeah, I'm leaning 1-0. The more I think about it, I think Club America will kind of struggle to get going here. There's a lot of questions about them, and to the point that their president came out and interviewed with Today NA and had to reinforce that Miguel Herrera wasn't going anywhere, that there wasn't any problems there. There shouldn't be, unless Colombia comes in and throws a lot of money at him or somebody else does. He finished third in the regular season. Like, their playoff performance was disappointing, but they were third. They were good. Now, they've got an older group, and I think that's where some of the unsettled style is. Uncle No Pockets is going with a Brad Gazan hat trick. Dig it. They are in a weird spot because they kept a group together for a while, and now you got a lot of guys who are like 30 and 30 plus, and they're going to have to refresh that group, and that's something they've talked about. So do you have guys kind of looking over their shoulder like, am I about to be forced out? Am I about to go? A couple of them already know they're going, Ibargüen and Roger Martinez. So where is their motivation here? I don't know. It could be very high to show to a future employer that we're here and we can produce for you. Or it can be very like, why am I here? This team doesn't want me.
Right.
And you just don't know. So not knowing, you come into this if you're Atlanta United, if you're these kids, and you go for it. And you get in their face and you knock somebody around early on and you try to make it difficult for Club America to play. And if that means you are, reluctant to put yourself in a position where you're trying to build out of the back early on and you're just pressing and you're just trying to chase and harass, I'm okay with that. I think you've got some players who can make that work. It's hard. It's going to be hard with the absences you have. That's the reality of the situation. With having not played for so long, you'll be fresh. You will have no rhythm. There will be no rhythm, and you've got so many players playing together that haven't played together much. They will struggle to get a rhythm. So early, don't force that. Try to get into the game by doing things outside of rhythm and possession.
Swickster says, who'd get the hat trick tonight? The cynic in me says no one. Our attack doesn't even reach 3 goals in this game.
It probably wouldn't normally because Club America is very good. So it's not really cynical. It's very difficult. That's why you don't fall behind 3-0.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Club America is a good team. So, that's why you don't fall behind 3-0. So no, it's not a shock to say nobody's going to get a hat trick. It's going to be hard if you're straight up. If you've got everybody here and you're playing it where you should have played it early in the season, you didn't have any injuries. It'd be difficult 3-0 down, no question. It's incredibly unlikely to pull it off. It can be pulled off. You've got to try to find a way to pull it off. You don't just say, and this is maybe where it's just a different mentality here, talking about our teams. You don't just say, well, don't play the game. Just don't show up. Just stay in the locker room. Don't go. Don't get on the bus. Don't go. Forget it. We can't do it. You got to try to find a way. But it's incredibly unlikely. That's why you don't fall behind 3-0 at the beginning.
What else is going on the Twitch pitch? And what else is on your mind? Because we got games today.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff. Bit of clarification, and man, MLS has to get better at this stuff. Laurel Faller, who covers FC Cincinnati, tweeted that she got clarification from Cincinnati. They pick first in the waiver and reentry drafts. The link at MLS Soccer, when they announced the reentry process, had Austin picking first. That would have been a change from previous systems. It's not. They're not picking first. Because all of our talk yesterday, you can basically throw it all out. You can throw out the questions about, well, why would they pick Danny Houston first in the expansion draft, which the order didn't matter, but why would they pick him? Because they could have got him in the reentry draft. Well, they could have, but they would have had to have him get through everybody else.
Yeah.
So please, MLS, man, get this stuff right. It's confusing enough. Please get this stuff for us correct. It's so hard to talk about this league at times with stuff like that because you're going into preparing to talk about the expansion draft, and we put a lot of time into it, and we talked about strategy, and we left guys in the reentry draft out because they were going to have the first pick according to your website. That wasn't the case. So we wasted our time. We want to talk about the league. We want to get into all of this, and it's, it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating because we wasted our time talking about the expansion draft in the way that we did because we had the rules wrong because they were posted wrong. The order of the reentry draft was posted wrong. We didn't just throw out a bunch of names like, oh, these guys are available in the expansion draft. Yeah, they're good players. We tried to give real strategy to it and a real conversation about it, and we wasted our time. And that's disappointing because we want to go beyond just this guy's good, these three guys on one team, yeah, they should all be picked, which you can't do. Like, we were trying to really get into it, and we wasted our time. So, sorry about that, y'all. Sorry. It's just frustrating. Because Austin was asked about it. Claudio Reyna was asked about it. Well, why'd you pick Danny Houston and Joe Corona, both reentry eligible? And he had to answer it in a way that probably he's like, well, we're picking last in the reentry draft, so why, we don't want to make sure we want to make sure we get these guys. I don't know. I like what they did. Brady Scott was the kind of goalkeeper that we talked about, a reserve goalkeeper, because I think they'll get either Brian Rowe, who's a free agent, Brad Stuver, Andrew Tarbell are free agents if you think they're a number one, or you'll go get a number one outside. Jared Stroud, creative player. That was a surprise. I thought they might go a different direction off the Red Bulls roster. Corona, veteran in the midfield, makes a lot of sense. Danny Houston's a big risk, big reward one. I like him as a player. I think he's good. He's also had some injuries. He's also been inconsistent.
Yeah.
So if he hits for Austin, that's a great fit for them. We'll have to see if he does. 1 o'clock is when the free agency period opens. That's following the end of the year waivers process where there's like 8 players available. Andrew Carlton is the most interesting name, I think, not just to us here in Atlanta, but around the league. We'll be curious to see if anybody picks him up. Re-entry will be tomorrow, and that goes in 2 phases, and Cincinnati does pick first. First phase, you're picking up the player's option that was declined by their original club, or if you pick a player who is out of contract, there's very strict parameters on the offer you have to make to them. If you pick somebody who had an option declined, you are picking up the option and they are on your roster. There's no choice there. Out of contract, there are very strict parameters on what they have to be offered. If you wait to phase 2 next week, then you can negotiate. You're picking up their rights before they all become free agents. We mentioned Owen Otasoe had an assist yesterday to help Wolves come back and beat Chelsea. Maybe that's why we haven't seen Domer in the Twitch pitch this morning. He's angry. Great for him, and he got the opportunity because they had absences in central midfield. He comes in at 19, makes his Premier League debut, gets an assist. Great performance from him. She Believes Cup next year. There's Domer. Sorry, buddy. She Believes Cup next year is coming into shape. Japan says they're participating. Pia Sundhage said Brazil was going to participate previously. They'll have a European team that hasn't been announced yet. That is, I think, still set to be in March. Maybe they push it around based off the calendar, based off trying to get fans in the stands. But that'll be the first competitive opportunity here for Vlatko Andonovski ahead of the Olympics and getting ready for that. If you haven't seen it, I posted it on soccerdownhere.net, the highlights from Vélez and Universidad Católica last night.
Unreal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Sudamericana, so we mentioned it yesterday. Universidad Católica 1-2-1 in Argentina. They get the home leg here. They've got the away goals. They went up 3-1 on aggregate in the 68th minute. Feels like it's done. Vélez scored 2 in the last 20 minutes. They scored the third that won it for them in the 94th minute. Juan Martín Lucero. They go through on the away goals tiebreaker. You got games tonight while you're watching Atlanta United. You've got Racing hosting Boca in the first leg of the Libertadores quarterfinal. Santos hosts Gremio in the second leg of their quarterfinal as 1-1 on aggregate coming into it. So big games in South America tonight. Other stuff, I mean, we've got a while till soccer over there comes back. Papu Gomez conversation is continuing in Italy. Cincinnati is being mentioned with Papu Gomez. It sounds like MLS and Qatari clubs are offering big salary to Papu Gomez. He is, according to some, focused on staying in Italy and staying close to where he lives in Bergamo. Milan has been mentioned as a possible landing site for Papu Gomez. Inter is the one that has come up more and more, and potentially swapping Christian Eriksen and Papu Gomez.
Sad Christian Eriksen?
Yes, maybe he won't be sad at Atalanta. And it could even be a swap of 6-month loans just to get to the summer to see what will happen. That would be wild if that happens. Eriksen's a better fit at Atalanta. Papu Gomez, can he fit at Inter? Potentially, although I'm still kind of wondering a little bit about that. That would be wild. That would be fascinating. Ragamuffin asks if Arteta makes it to the weekend if Southampton thrash them today.
Let me see.
If there's a thrashing, no.
Oh, thrashing, no.
If there's a thrashing, no. If it is a loss,
Well, but today, get this. Juice boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal is a big favorite. It's still on the plus side, but Arsenal's a plus 118. Southampton is a plus 240.
Okay.
I'm thinking almost a cran grape at least on the draw for Southampton today. Okay. Which is a plus 250.
No love for Mikel Arteta.
Uh-uh.
He feels like he's really gotten broken. He's in trouble. I think he gets till the break where they go into FA Cup, the break from league play. That feels like where they would make a change after the festive fixtures. Some of it, and this has come up, where did I see this? It came up with West Brom. That's what it was. Duh. So Slaven Bilic is out. Looks like Sam Allardyce is going to take over. That's what everybody's talking about. There was some conversation that they couldn't make the change before because of the protocols, because of coming into the protocols. They didn't have anybody who could manage the team. So I guess they've got somebody now who can take over in the short term while they're getting Big Sam into the protocols or whoever they're going to hire. Big Sam, a couple crazy things here. First off, he's getting another opportunity. Mm-hmm. Second, Richard Jolly of The Guardian, if he gets it, then Allardyce, Tony Pulis, Alan Pardew, and Roy Hodgson will have all managed both West Brom and Crystal Palace in the last decade. That tells you a lot about those clubs.
Well, here's some Sam Allardyce stuff real quick.
Oh, one more. With one exception, since 2005, every year has seen Pardew, Hughes, Redknapp, Allardyce, Bruce, or Warnock appointed by a Premier League club. Again, that tells you everything about this nonsense.
Yep. From Nick Mendola over Pro Soccer Talk. Allardyce has not boasted a win percentage above 40% with a club since his 8-year run with Bolton ended in 2007. His last 3 jobs have been 31 matches with Sunderland. Well, his last 4 jobs. 1 match with England. 24 matches with Crystal Palace. 26 matches with Everton.
Well, on Football Daily, Sam Allardyce gave his blueprint. This is a little while back I think it was on Monday Night Football on Sky. His blueprint for surviving in the Premier League. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
I'm probably going to get angry.
1 goal to win a game. Only 1 goal to win you 3 points. Most of the Premier League teams who win the Premier League are the ones with the best defensive records. And I think that when you look at the clean sheet records, it gives you the platform to be successful in the season. You can't always score 2 or 3 goals, depending on your squad and on your position in the league.
But do you go in with that as your priority when you go?
Yeah, that and scoring first, I think, because I haven't put it on this because there's quite a lot more that I've left off. But certainly, clean sheets and scoring first are the two easier ones for everybody to look at. There's more in depth in stats and technical ones you can look at after that.
Key one.
Is that the pitch you think he made to West Brom?
Oh, I'm sure it was.
That's ridiculous. There's more.
These don't lose possession in your own half.
Absolutely.
And play the first pass forward.
Yeah, they actually know what's happening by your repeated sessions in your training. That, you know, when it comes to playing Arsenal, it would be better we played like this and try and capitalise on their weaknesses.
Targeting the opposition's weakness, which again you've been renowned for in your career.
Set pieces obviously are on the list
your
too.
thinking at the start of a week.
Only way to get in the final third was to get the ball up off the front man.
Don't try to build anything. Don't try to do anything. Don't try to pass too much. Just get it forward. Put everybody behind it so you can defend. Yes, Sam Allardyce is very, very progressive with the way he sees the game.
Clean sheets and score first.
Yes, it's very inspiring. I really feel like I want to run through a wall. No, I'd rather go to sleep after hearing that. Thank you, Big Sam. But, I mean, they're only 2 points from safety. You know, like, I get it. I understand it. They're not imaginative. Obviously, they've had all of those different people at some point in the last decade. They're not really taking many chances. They're not very good. It's all a bunch of garbage. And I feel very bad for West Brom fans because you have been fed garbage after garbage, after more garbage, and then some more garbage, and then extra garbage on top of garbage. Like, at some point, you have to be something that is inspiring to people. At some point. And Big Sam, Alan Pardew, Tony Pulis, who's had the worst start in Sheffield Wednesday history. I get the survival thing. I know. And the financials, especially now. This is maybe the time that I understand it. But you've got to look at more than that at some point.
Yep.
I would think. Or you just keep basically taking advantage of your fans.
Yeah.
Because it's not fun. It's not good. I have so much more respect for Norwich as a yo-yo club because they try to play.
Yeah.
They try to play. You know, go down swinging. I respect for that. Are there times you got to be defensive? Sure. Are there times you got to just play in the other half like we talked about with Atlanta tonight? Yeah. But in general, you know what you're going to get from a Big Sam team. It's not going to be fun. The fight. They can't lose the bottle and all the stupid nonsense crap, generic cliches and garbage. He better keep them up.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably need to financially. If they fall, they could be in really bad shape, but that's the reality. On the fun side, Liverpool and Tottenham play today at 3 o'clock. Hopefully it will be fun. I love the Liverpool Echo headline. Sneering pantomime villain Jose Mourinho returning for unfinished Liverpool business, but Jurgen Klopp is ready. That's the headline in the Liverpool Echo. Sneering pantomime villain.
Sneering pantomime. Okay, so here's your juice boxes.
Okay.
Liverpool's a minus 112. Mm-hmm. Tottenham, the draw option is a plus 287.
Mm-hmm.
Tottenham, a plus 300 to win.
Oh, I'm taking the peppermint bark and putting them on the draw, and I'm taking the... It's riskier, so I got to think for a second. I'm going to take the generic Santa Claus chocolate candies and put them on Tottenham to win, because that number is really, really good. I think it's going to be a draw.
Yeah, I'll go. Let's tell you what. Here's what I'll do. I'll go with the Reese's Christmas trees on the draw.
Okay, I am predicting the draw. I am predicting a draw, but I kind of like that crazy number because Tottenham going in and winning is not a ludicrous thing to think.
Yeah.
So there we go. We mentioned it earlier about Lille and their situation. It looks like Gerard Lopez, who is the owner, is going to be forced out by his lenders, Elliott Management and JP Morgan. They have, according to Get French Football News, raging financial trouble, which does not sound fun, would lead to the total breakdown of the club's project, existing structure, and likely attempted title challenge. They're in first. They're in the Europa League, and they might be slashing budgets because French football is a mess right now with the whole telefoot thing collapsing. And they're owed hundreds of millions of dollars that they're probably not going to get. How are games going to get televised right now? I mean, they're trying to get out of the deal. I think there's like one more week of grace period where if they magically find $300+ million or euros, they can throw it at the league and keep going. But after that, I guess the league puts it up for a very quick bid. And what that could look like, who knows? Couple more in the Netherlands. Somebody who was there and part of the decisions with Frank de Boer when he was winning titles at Ajax, Mark Overmars. He's been the sporting director for 9 years. According to Oriol Dominic of Onze TV in Barcelona, he has decided to leave the club in June. Overmars says it's a personal decision, or Dominic says that Overmars is saying it's a personal decision. Thinks he's just finished the cycle. He has no agreement with anybody else. Interesting that it comes from a Barcelona outlet. That would be very, very interesting if Mark Overmars decided to go to Barcelona. He did very, very well at Ajax. Very, very interesting bit of news there. Brazil. Looks like finally Internacional is going to get their new manager that they had targeted before but couldn't pull it off, Miguel Angel Ramirez of Independiente del Valle in Ecuador. They tried to get him. He wasn't going to leave while they were still in the Libertadores. Now they're out. Brazilian media saying that there's a big push to get him, and it could be announced in the coming days. That's a big get. He's done incredibly well at Independiente del Valle, and Inter needs somebody like that. They also need to stick with him. That's the other thing, is it doesn't make any sense if you're going to bring in a guy renowned for developing talent and developing a playing idea and give him 2 weeks or 6 weeks or 10 games. TV ratings are out. The final showdown between León and Unam Pumas delivered 2.4 million total viewers on Sunday in the United States. 4.2 million viewers in total for both legs. Very, very strong.
Yeah, not a surprise that would completely and totally blow up when it came to the ratings for those kinds of matchups.
Yeah, no shock. And Liga MX is still the dominant force for ratings in the U.S. Those games, I think the Club America Chivas games are at the top of the list. MLS Cup, including Spanish language, got to 1.5, which was pretty good. Better than last year. Better, I think, time slot, too, for TV. I mean, it's Saturday night as opposed to Sunday afternoon. That helps. Your Spanish language rating stayed solid. Your English language went up a big deal because of that time change, but the Spanish language rating staying good is good. With a lot of leagues and a lot of domestic leagues in the U.S. seeing ratings decline, to see an increase, and you could even say it's a wash because of the time slots, or down from 2018 where it was a similar time slot, you take that.
Yeah.
You take that and you're okay with it. It outdrew the Manchester Derby recently, for example. Again, different time slots, but you take that. The Spanish language audience for MLS is growing. It still goes back to what we started the show with. Like, to build the credibility, you've got to start beating teams in Concacaf. But it is growing. There is more interest because Alan Pulido coming to the league from Liga MX. Lucas Zelarayan coming to the league from Liga MX. You're seeing more of those guys. That helps. So we shall see what happens next. Tonight, 8 o'clock, it's on FS2. It's on 2-Day NA, Atlanta United and Club America. I'm just going to say you might want to be on Twitch around that time. I can say that much. You might want to be on Twitch. And if you're going to watch the game, you might want to have a second screen. It's been really difficult with the rights fees and such. We are not broadcasting the game on radio tonight. So you might want to be on Twitch. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. No, Jason Nix. And no, Ragamuffin. No. But you just might want to be on Twitch.
Okay.
8 o'clock, I think 7:56 is when the broadcast starts. FS2, 2-day NA has it. And then after that, it's LAFC and Cruz Azul in Concacaf Champions League. Yep. That'll do it for us. 2 o'clock stoppage time, facebook.com/929 the game. Join us over there, and we'll be back tomorrow to recap all of it and see if any free agents get signed and talk about the reentry process and all of these things. So we'll see you tomorrow. Mucho platiel.
Invest in the crest. Mucho platiel.